Melissa.
Well, I'm here for you, Mark.
Hey, I appreciate that. How are you doing?
Oh, I think
Is that good?
Yeah, not good.
There it is. Into the room. Yeah, come on in. Come on in. It's going to be intimate.
Okay,
It's going to be cozy. Participation mandatory.
good.
Jay, meet Melissa. Melissa, meet Jay if you haven't already.
Hello, nice to meet you.
Yeah. A few people here now.
It's good. Melissa, how was Thanksgiving for you?
It was wonderful.
Yeah?
How was your day?
For real, or just are you just saying that?
It sounds really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was good.
Yep.
I've learned some people just have like auto responses. It was good, thank you.
Yeah.
And it's like, cool, I'm glad. Was it?
Yeah, I'm not a real big holiday person.
Why is that?
I think with my sister being in Alabama, it's just like my mom and me.
Hmm.
And like, I don't know, like I went over to my second cousin's. With. So like, that was nice. It was like the first time I've ever went to Thanksgiving, there was a bunch of people. I
Yeah.
think just because I don't have a big family, you know what I mean? So it's just not. That's not the same.
Yep.
Like I personally think, so I was a manager at KB Toys. Like like in high school and then right out of high school. So I feel like holidays are more of a way for like people to make money.
Yeah.
Do you know what I
Turned-
mean?
yeah.
turned into
I think that
retail.
that's, yeah,
Retail haven, yeah. My wife was in retail for a long time.
Oh, she?
yeah.
And it's the same thing, it was just. Yeah, Christmas, I don't get excited by anything like that.
Yeah.
Thanksgiving, we all get together, not really, there's only 5 of us.
Yeah.
I mean, it just narrows down over time.
Take one pass.
So,
I hear ya. All right, who's
just the 20, 30 people there, you know. Everybody's got their own families, they do their own thing.
Yeah, that is what happens.
Mhm.
I like Thanksgiving because there's less pressure associated with it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
This is true.
yeah. It's a relaxing
Yeah,
day.
you
Yeah.
get together for a meal, you don't have to worry about gifts and whether they're gonna like it.
Yeah.
All that
See,
stuff.
when my sister was home, like I hate shopping, like I hate it. But every year, like when my sister was home, like we would all like, we'd go Black Friday. It was kind of fun, you know what I mean?
Right.
And now that she's not here, I'm like, wow, all that complaining I did, now I kind of miss it.
Oh, yeah. That's how it works, isn't it?
Yeah,
The things that are the greatest nuisance are also, a source of joy in a backward sort of way.
yes.
Scott, one of the two Killies. I know Lynette can't make it today,
Yes.
but
She usually represents us here.
yeah.
I was thinking about joining your
you have
team
to stack
yesterday,
there,
just to
pick
let you
one and-
know.
Oh, I didn't realize. it was-
Yep, just one, yeah.
I don't know if that's a joke. But if it ever gets real,
I didn't look down through
It may get real.
I'm good with that powerhouse. It'd be like Hulk Hogan and the Ultimate Warrior joining teams.
Ooh, I like that. I like that comp.
Oh,
We'll leave this here.
Somebody comes in. and gives
See
it
if
to 'em.
Preston sneaks in.
Let's see.
I know we've got a few that are gonna be zooming. How was Thanksgiving for Killy House?
It's good. We actually got invited to one of our clients' house. And it was really good. We saw what they've done to the house. It was already a very nice house, but they can't not be working on their homes. So they have one piece that's not stained on a new pantry they put in. And they said you just let that go. And
Yeah.
like they had a workout pool in the house
Oh,
that, yeah. And so they removed it. And what they did is they took out the windows and took it right out the wall, put it in the backyard. And they took this patio they had and added that to the house. So they've added quite a bit, and then they're telling me it was supposed to be their forever home. They may want to list it. Another property.
Looking forward to
I've only been there 1 year.
Well, mine have only been there like 2 weeks.
Oh, man.
They were like, because I came for Thanksgiving and we were like going up and down the stairs and they moved from a ranch, okay? And they're in their 50s and the husband's like 60. She's like, yeah, Melissa, I know we said that we would never move again, but probably 5 years we're selling this and having a downfall.
much better.
And you would say, I'd be glad to serve you.
Mhm.
Wasn't never my intent to sell you a home that you didn't want to stay in, but
This is the first time my wife hasn't cooked in years.
mm,
So.
Was that-
And our daughter says, this is the best Thanksgiving food I've ever had. It's from.
oh yeah,
Had
yeah.
all the carbs she liked. And they had like 11 pies. It was-
Oh my.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
Did Lynette, was she glad to be free
Oh,
of the burden? Okay.
Yeah, she didn't have to. Yeah, it gets stressful. She
You
has
might-
to have a glass of wine when
Yeah.
Thanksgiving comes.
My mother-in-law, she loves to cook, and Thanksgiving is her favorite because and she's the type where it's like, no, don't bring anything. Like I got it, you
That's
know?
kinda how we do.
And I mean, it's always really good. You know,
Well, and you
can
would
we bring
appreciate-
anything? Oh
when
my
you-
God.
You would appreciate too that on Saturday we went to a Norwegian party.
Oh,
So we did foods from Norway and all that stuff. So we're doing a trip around the world. But we took off America.
okay, you know, we live there.
Let's change that. So we're debating between Mediterranean or Brazilian barbecue. like
Oh,
Brazilian
yeah.
Foods.
Yeah,
But yeah, you would have. We didn't have a sauna though, like you know. But
we did. There was plenty of sauna
we
this
had
weekend.
Fish balls. We had salmon soup.
Wow.
All they did, and then came up with a really cool hot drink where you cook down the wine and had all these spices. It was
Okay,
fun.
okay.
And they don't have
I'm in
big
for that.
lost.
Yep,
No, that's it. Put the brownies on.
they did. Probably the last time they'll face Tom Brady. So, you know, silver lining to everything.
You know, Tom went to Michigan, so
That's right.
at least one Michigan.
At least one. All right. Talinia, I'm assuming that you can hear me. If you want to give me a thumbs up. I just dropped a document in the chat. I shouldn't be looking here. Dropped a document in the chat for you to open up because that's going to guide our conversation today. And I am going to anyone with a link, so we'll do it that way. And I imagine we'll have a couple others hop on, but we'll dive in. So Scott and Jay, you and I think Talinia are newer to this conversation. Well, Melissa, you've been to one or two. Is it basically, what's that?
She's rolling in the dough. She
That's right.
needs
That's
it.
right. She's here to just rub off on the rest of us, you know, share a little bit of that. And basically what we typically do is have a sharing time. What's going on? What's a win from the last month in the wealth building conversation? What's a lesson that you've learned or update, a question that you might have, something to bring to the conversation. I then do a little bit of a market update, and then we dive into a more structured conversation, which I'm excited. Today's is going to be a little bit different from what we often do. We've done, what was last month? Was last month short-term rentals? Yeah. We did cryptocurrency before that. Like we've done different types of investment classes, I suppose. And this one's going to be a little bit more big picture. What are you aiming for? Sort of conversation. So with that said, anyone want to share any wins or lessons or questions from the last month? What's that?
Is it retiring a win?
I'd say.
Yeah, that's why I'm here.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm no longer.
I knew that was coming, but I thought it was a little further out.
It was supposed to be a little further out, but things changed, so. I
Yeah.
just did it.
How many?
Fall, so I'm gonna
Good for you.
take advantage of that and hopefully
Good for you.
turn over the real estate into a little more active
Uh-huh.
endeavor.
What was your last workplace?
I worked Progressive. I was in automotive field for 30 years.
Wow.
Trying to make the change, but I've been doing real estate almost as long.
Yeah.
But It's had its up and down.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's what I say. I sold my other personal residence and just take that windfall and try and roll that into my real estate.
Yeah.
And get started because I was enjoying it. I was working with Amy there for a while.
Mm-hmm.
We were doing really well. I was enjoying it and then it just stopped.
Yep. Amy, Domrovsky. Yep. No, that's huge. That's the target that a lot of people are aiming for. And I think your decision to continue working, I think we'll talk more about that, but I think that notion of retirement just being sitting around doing nothing,
No,
I don't think that appeals to many people that I
Never
know.
never had that thought. It's always when I get out of there, I'm gonna do real estate.
Yeah.
Real estate's gonna be since I never did it, earlier.
Yeah. No, that's definitely a win.
Yeah, so
Congratulations.
that's a win. Yeah.
And these are wins towards wealth building.
Yeah. Updates, questions, anything that you want to bring to the conversation today? Lessons. The lesson for me, so I coming into last month's meeting, I had purchased some more investment property. And I think I'll often hit the note with folks like, hey, real estate investing is not passive. It's not passive like owning an index fund is. And we purchased 3 homes and each home has had something to deal with, whether a tenant, thing to make sure that we get right, or 2 major repairs that weren't anticipated out the gate, which it's just a good reminder that when you're underwriting, when you're evaluating and analyzing a property, to make sure that you're assuming you're accounting for contingencies and assuming that the thing that looks bad is going to go bad, because at some point it probably will. So just a good lesson and reminder. And the win, I would say, is because we were cautious in our analysis, none of those things crippled us.
Right.
The contingency was there.
I have a listing coming and it's a little 2-bedroom house in Maslin. And I was thinking about maybe like for me to buy it for a rental, but it doesn't have a garage. I don't know.
We have a 3-bedroom, 2-bath ranch, no garage,
Yeah.
and we get $1,200 a month for it. The garage was only an issue for 5 of the 22 people who applied the first day we had it on. So I would not let that frighten you.
No.
It's the time of year where people might question it more. In the
Right.
summer and spring, they don't.
Right.
Now they might, just because weather changed.
Lori, if you're just joining the conversation, I just dropped in the chat a link for a document that we are going to be using for our conversation today. Welcome.
Thanks. Can you hear
I
me?
would-
Yeah, sure can.
Okay, good.
What am I listed price for $79.9?
They won't.
And I'm thinking I could get at least 1,000 a month out of it.
That meets the 1% rule, right?
1% rule.
I know.
Yeah, I
Let's-
think that's.
Let's look at it in detail at the end of this conversation, just to
Okay.
play with it. That's
Yeah,
good.
because they're coming in today to sign the listing agreement, so.
Yeah.
Scott or Lori or Talinia, any wins or updates or lessons that you want to share with us in the last month?
I don't know if this applies, but last week I met with my financial advisor and we're setting up my trust for my kids. So that's kind of, I didn't realize that you had to protect everything from the nursing home. The will
Yep.
doesn't do it for you, but the trust will.
Yep.
So we're
Yep.
moving all assets and all income sources, streams, our passive ones anyway, into the trust. So that was kind of a little bit of a shocker.
Yeah, no, and the shock might also be, oh gosh, I have to pay someone to help protect my stuff. And I think so often in this conversation, we talk about the accumulation of wealth, because most people are in that phase, but to also be thinking about the preservation phase for you as well as for the next generation. And once you have a certain windfall or certain level of assets, the protection piece is every bit as important as the building piece, as you were learning, Talinia, with what's been happening in your life more recently.
Well, even
That's
our home
Yep.
is going into the trust as well. So
Yep.
it's not going into an LLC, it's going directly into the trust. And
Yep.
I'm glad I had professional help to explain to me why not to throw it into an LLC and push it into that trust. So the nursing home can't use or take the home at all once it's in there for 4 years.
Right.
Maybe you guys already know all this stuff, but all this stuff is new to me.
No, I don't know all that stuff. I do know when in doubt, don't trust the process, trust what you put in place, so to speak. And if it's not clearly defined, then it's going to be running through probate, and nobody wants that to happen. I am no attorney, and it sounds like you've got good people in your corner giving you good insight. How about for you, Lori?
A win?
Yeah,
Is that
win or
what
a
your
lesson or an
question
update.
is?
Yep.
Well, I did just hire a virtual assistant. So today was our first day.
Okay.
So that is some big growing steps for me.
Yes.
Certainly going to make me approach my business differently and maybe become a better planner with my business. And I also is on my radar to set up a trust and different LLCs, because quite frankly, my assets are a mess as far as in my personal name and all sorts of different things. So Talina, is that how you pronounce your name?
Talina, that's close enough.
Talina. So how much is all of that costing you to do? Have you gotten to that point yet?
Mine is pretty complex because I have 4 different streams of passive income coming in.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a multi-disabled daughter that complicated things as well.
I
But
see.
for all of that, and my he's going to go ahead and do my living wills, which I have a generic one, and both of my powers of attorney, and it's going to be less than 5,000.
Okay.
Which is a
And
real
he's-
chunk of change, but is also, if you think about the ramifications of not doing so, a small price to pay for proper planning.
Exactly, and he's right there in the glass towers, right by our office.
Nice.
Convenient.
That's great. That's great.
One thing
Scott,
that
any-
I learned also too is that anything titled, including vehicles, a certain amount, I forget the amount that goes to your spouse, but really you should have everything as a TOD, like your vehicles, depending on what type of assets you have in vehicles, boats, campers, trailers, $100 motorbike that has a title to should be a TOD as well, because even something that's worth next to nothing, as long as it has a title, it still has to go through probate if you don't have that TOD on it.
That's a great tidbit. Scott, anything from your corner?
Well, just evaluating, like we had been saving for a vacation rental for quite a while, and then houses went up 200 grand where we were looking. And so I'm
Is that it?
continuing monitoring and setting the goal if that's where we're going to go to next,
Okay.
or if we're going to look at other assets to obtain. But yeah, and the other thing would be just that looking at the local market, watching it. I don't feel like anything's changed with investing. People are still buying good deals, and they're not necessarily it's not necessarily a win right now. It might be a win later. So that 1% rule isn't always applying if it's a better property,
Right.
but monitoring that just personally.
Where would you guys be looking to buy your vacation? Yeah.
There's 3 particular neighborhoods I've been watching for, I guess 14 years now. I was $4,000 away from our down payment, and then prices went up, and I'm like, well, this is gonna continue, and it did. And
Needless to say.
it's near, Davenport, Florida,
Okay.
and, yeah.
Cool.
So I have specific things that I'm looking for to be attractive to vacation clients and such there, and I'd like to eventually have 5 homes
Okay.
within those 3 neighborhoods.
Okay. Well, that is, hearing about that $4,000 missed out.
Yeah, it was pretty-
Time value of
But-
money.
So what we did then,
Yeah.
because of inflation, we invested it in a property here because we didn't want the money to continue to drop while we waited, and the market has not
Yeah.
adjusted. It's starting to come down. I get notices every day, but so we just now I have a new goal to have my down payment.
Yep.
So
There you go.
Yeah.
All right, so let's talk briefly what we're seeing in the market. So as we think about building wealth, the 3 major drivers of wealth is your offense, so your ability to earn, your defense, your ability to restrain your costs, to limit what you're spending, and then your special teams, to run with the football analogy, is the investing side of things. And so understanding what's happening in any market, and when we talk about market, we really should talk about markets. And this is not a conversation for us to dive super deep in commodities or that sort of thing, but broadly in both real estate, which we all know, and then I'll say the stock market broadly. Let's have a brief conversation. What are we seeing right now as it relates to investing in the real estate market, in our real estate market? How about that?
I think people are still doing it. I think it's
Mm-hmm.
especially with inflation, I find that real estate is largely inflation proof, as it's going to go up as the market does. I think most people are comfortable with something tangible, so owning property, it's limited supply, so people realize the value in that. It's not a hard sell. It's hard to sell to people who haven't done it.
Yep.
And there's a lot of education when you're helping others, but for ourselves, it's being aware of changes and how quickly things are going, and sometimes you might lose if you negotiate. It take a longer time to negotiate, trying to get to a finer price, but sometimes you can get that win.
Yep.
So,
Yep. Still a solid market, and becoming a better market to invest in and find value in. Interesting statistic. 40% of homes that are owned right now are owned with cash, with no mortgage on them. That's a nationwide statistic, which let's dive into that. What does that mean? What's beneath that? If nearly half of residential properties are owned outright, what should that mean for us as investors, or as we serve investors?
40% of homes are owned outright.
And those people would have the ability to do the investing without, taking all their equities out
Yep.
and start making money on that money instead of being just one thing making money. They can turn it into 2 things making money, or possibly 3, depending on where they're at. So
Right.
as far as talking to them about investing, that would be a way to look at it. It's like, well, you're only making, this is only going to keep gaining in value so much, but if you get another property off of the money you got here, that property is going to keep gaining on top of it.
Right.
So now you got 2 properties.
Right. Yep.
Or 3 more.
Yeah, I think there's an opportunity and there's a challenge in that statistic. The challenge is a lot of that money, a lot of those properties they're institutionally held. So the margins in the real estate investing game are becoming compressed because institutional investors, and you've all lost out on deals because someone's coming in with cash. We don't see tons of institutional investment in this particular market proportionally, but it is here, and that makes it more challenging for the little guy to win. If you're going up against a cash
Oh, yeah.
offer, it's harder to win in that scenario. So that presents a challenge. And for you as an agent to say, me knowing and being connected to my local area is more important, because that's the advantage you have over an institutional investor, is you actually really know the market. Whereas an institutional investor is less likely to know that. So that's the challenge. The opportunity there is, if you say 100 people, and half of them or 70% of them own a home, statistically speaking, a percentage of them own that home outright as well. And so if they are thinking about the wealth building conversation, the difference between return on ROI, return on investment, versus ROE, return on equity. So if I own $100,000 home outright, what return am I making on that beyond the appreciation? Whereas if I were to tap some of that, to your point, and turn that into another investment, my opportunity for return there is higher. What about in the stock markets? What are we paying attention to right now? What are we seeing? Any thoughts there?
We don't want to look. We just don't want to look.
I think there's distrust. I think that in our country, we've got a lot of political uproar. I think some people thought the last election was going to change some things. So I think people don't have trust in the markets. I don't think they trust those who are making decisions. I think the FTX thing with the coin is adding to that, because a lot of people don't understand the market anyways, let alone cryptocurrency. And so that just makes more distrust of that market. And so there may be really good opportunities, but is it the best opportunity right now? Because I don't think it's going to change right away.
Yeah. So you're absolutely right. There's an unsettledness. People are a little bit less certain yet. This is hot off, here we are, Cyber Monday. We're rolling into the heaviest spending time of the year. Black Friday sales were still the highest in history this Friday, only 2.3% above the previous high, which, if you think about, inflation is up 8-point-some-odd%, and we're only up 2. Okay, so we should have gone up by at least 8%, but still, people aren't so scared that they're not willing to spend money, ironically enough, but they're too scared to invest.
Today will be more spending.
Correct. They anticipate, so it was 9.2 billion on Black Friday. They're anticipating 11.3 billion today, which would be the highest spending day in the history of the world. So
That's because you spend more for things, like the inflation needs to get into that. But consumer confidence, I think people are willing to spend because they wanted to spend for 2 years, because they weren't out and spending as much because of COVID and stuff. So people want to have good feelings, and people get good feelings by spending their money. They don't when they look at the credit card 2 months from now.
Right. As it relates to the interest rate environment that we're in, so we're always looking forward to the next Fed meeting. Early signs. So the last 4 meetings, they've raised the interest rate by 75 basis points, which has been the most aggressive hike in a short period of time that recent history has seen. Not that the rates have never been higher than this, we know that they have, but the shortness of time that they've moved as fast is unprecedented. We're seeing encouraging signs that next meeting, they're going to continue to raise them into 2023. But the next meeting, they're likely to raise them by 50 basis points instead of 75 basis.
News to change that.
Yeah. So that's not like, don't host a party and we're still trending up. But the other thing that he's paying attention to, so it's one thing for average prices on things to begin to drop, but we need there to be more unemployed people in order for them to really drop the interest rate. Until we see more unemployment, they're not going to call it a recession, even though everything else is pointing in that direction. So believe it or not, in a backwards way, we're hoping for a negative job report, if that makes sense.
Yeah. What it takes is more people who are actually unemployed to file. That's part of it.
Right.
The numbers are not necessarily skewed to some degree.
Right.
We're also seeing that not that people think it's with the inflation numbers where they're at, it may not be great, but people who want safety, CDs are way up, and market, money market accounts are way up.
You can get 3% on a money market account, which was unheard of.
I think you can get 4 at the SSB Bank in
Mm-hmm.
Strasbourg right now. So that's still not the 8% inflation,
Right.
but
And yet this is the moment to steal the Warren Buffett quote. When people are greedy, be fearful. And when people are fearful, be greedy, meaning
it's the time to buy.
plow your money into investments. And I think we're at the moment now where, to Scott's point, the average consumer is feeling uneasy. They'll say, oh, I'll wait until X happens, or I'll wait until we know that the market has hit the bottom. And Gary Keller will say, hey, the biggest wealth building opportunities happen in down market cycles. And that's certainly true for real estate, but the same is true for the stock market.
Yeah.
And I think so for us to say, oh, do we believe that? Do we believe that markets always recover? And if so, am I going to invest when others are? And we're at the front edge of the fear, because we're coming out of a profoundly greedy period, and we're at the front edge of a fearful period. And so for us to kind of gird up our loins, so to speak, and say, hey, am I ready to be greedy and to take action when others are fearful? That's the question. So want to have a little bit of a different conversation today. And Lori and Talinia, hopefully you've been able to open up the link that I dropped in the chat there. But as I shared last month, I read this book called Life and Air, Millionaire, except life on the front. There's a couple other fantastic books, Your Money or Your Life, which is a kind of a classic as it relates to personal finance. Afford Anything is a podcast that I like, that I appreciate, because oftentimes when we think about the wealth conversation, at least in modestly minded middle America, where the average person that I meet isn't dreaming of owning their own yacht. The average person that I meet says, hey, it would be cool to be able to do things on my time and to have some nice things, but it's not about the glitz and the glam for most people that I know in this area. And that's the way I am. When I think about wealth building, it's not, I need to have some sort of empire. It's, I want to have, Preston, welcome. I want to have freedom. Can you pass Preston a sheet? I want to have freedom. I want to have choices. I want to have the ability to be generous. I want to have the opportunity to go on a trip without regret. It's more about the freedom than it is about the luxury. That's where I'm coming from, and that's where many people that I know come from. You're nodding as though you agree. So
Yep.
I'll take that as
be able to do what you need to do when you want to do it, and how you want to do it that's perfect.
exactly.
I need more than that.
Now Melissa's the fancy one, so she's going to be a little. That look up. Me? No.
Like you're on vacation all the time.
No, but I think I say that as a preface to this conversation, because as we think about wealth building, and as I read books like this and Your Money or Your Life, what's the only limited non-renewable resource in existence? Time. Exactly right. No one's succeeded really at the time machine so far as I'm aware, Back to the Future notwithstanding. And as so this book, An Uncommon Approach to Wealth, Success, and Prosperity. And it's the story of a guy who's running the rat race, who's hustling, he's building his company, he's working insane hours, aiming towards this thing. But meanwhile, his lifestyle has inflated to the point, I got to keep up with stuff. I got to have the stuff. If someone who owns a business like this needs to live in a house like this and drive a truck like this. And then he reconnects with an old high school, and it's told through it's a parable. It's not, maybe based on real things. And coming from a faith perspective, which has been helpful for me, bumps into an old high school friend of his who just seems to be more joyful and generous and have time that he has a hard time understanding. And this guy, rat race guy is like, man, he must be independently wealthy, or he must have started some company and sold it and struck out rich. And in reality, he's living towards his priorities. and within his means. And I think when we have a wealth building type conversation, it's easy to think about the more and the growth. And I think for me, and where I want to take our conversation and some of the questions that we're going to reflect on today is, what am I really aiming for? A. B, am I closer to some of those things now than I realize? Can I actually do some of this now? Then it's not just a future oriented thing, because I'm a profoundly future oriented person. I'm going to do this by this date. You know, it's all about the working the plan, and reading books like this. It can be, oh, I got a lot of work to do, but life does not need to wait, and my priorities need not wait until X number of dollars are saved. So with that as a preface, I want each of us, let's spend 6 minutes on this self-assessment here, kind of a middle set of 4 questions. And I want you to rate yourself 1 to 10. 1 is as poor as it could be, and 10 is I have 0 growth to do in this area. I have arrived. So question number 1, clarity for my vision. And vision and goal are different things. Vision is what I'm aiming for. What's my why? What's the abundant life that I would like to strive for, and that's going to be different for each of us. And how clear am I on what that is? How clear am I on my 1-year financial goals to help move me in that relationship? You know, Gary says that money is good for the good that money can do. So as we think about our vision needs to be funded somehow. And so we're going to talk about clarity on your financial goals. How would you rate yourself as it relates to living within your means? You know, do you have money left at the end of the month, or is there too much month left at the end of the money, to quote Dave Ramsey? So, you know, 10 is, you know, I basically have all my money left at the end of the month, and 1 is I'm moving backwards each month. I'm spending more than I make, and most people are going to be somewhere between those poles. And then the 4th point is clarity for how you would spend your time, rating yourself 1 to 10, if money were no object. If I could wake up each day, and this isn't, I'm not framing this through the lens of infinite riches, as much as you're not worrying about money. You're not needing to devote your, you know, the bulk of your time towards generating money from an active standpoint. So let's each spend 5-6 minutes reflecting for ourselves, and then we're going to discuss as a group.
Let's go 1 to 10. Great.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
All right, take another couple seconds. All right, let's go around, and this is a judgment-free conversation. This is a subjective scale determined by each of us, so anyone's number being higher than another or anyone's position being different than another. I think we come to conversations like this as learners, as humble learners saying, hey, I might have something that you don't know, and you might have something that I don't know, and neither one of those things makes us better than the other person. So let's enjoy that. Let's go question by question and just have some discussion here, and see what we can pick up or learn from one another. So clarity for my vision, what I'm aiming for, and my why. For me, I went against my typical rule of not permitting myself to put sevens, and I gave myself a 7 here. 7, it's like the non-vote, hey, you put a 7 for everything. It's like you put 7s across the board. I almost told people you couldn't do a 7 because that's just the classic. We all do 7. There you go. I did, same with me, just because I'm personally averse to it. I have concepts for my vision, and I think probably I've shared this with someone recently. There's 3 kind of major themes to my vision for my life. One is a willingness and a freedom to live counterculturally. Just because the Joneses are doing it doesn't mean that I need to do it. Doesn't mean that I can't do it, but kind of orienting my life towards an understanding that culture doesn't know what they're doing as it relates to my life. And just because someone needs a house twice as big as me doesn't mean that I need to feel like I need to do that. I drive a 5-year-old car with 65,000 miles and I feel great about it. It's got 2 cracks in the windshield and I should probably fix that at some point, but there's no shame that it's not new. So countercultural will lead me towards the freedom of time, of being able to do what I want, when I want, what I want. But freedom on its own is not enough of a vision. Freedom for abundance and generosity towards others and towards my family. But so I gave myself a 7 because that's those are themes, but the practicalities of that I'm not super clear on at this point. How about others? Who wants to chime in for where they are in understanding their vision or questions they have with that?
I have a 6. I feel like I have in my head what I want and where I want to be, but I don't have it well written out or spelled out, kind of like what you were saying. I don't have it. This is it, but I have it in my mind and in my heart a lot of what it looks like here, but it's not tangibly written down. That means it's harder to attain.
Right.
That's what I gave myself a 6 on it.
That's good. Others? Don't force us to go in sequence here, but
Just 'cause
I put a 7. That's why I laughed. Basically, I feel I'm heading towards kind of my vision, which is retirement, and then to go into the real estate full time. So I'm heading into that, and the reason I want to do real estate full time, I don't want to just quit working. Although I wouldn't, because I'm very heavy into dog rescue. My wife has her own 501c3.
I didn't realize that.
And I spend a lot of time with that. We've got 30 to 40 dogs at all times.
Wow.
So we just bring home 3 over the weekend.
Wow.
But to be able to sustain that and to keep it moving and all that, we do get donations and that. But Daddy Jay has a big part of keeping it going.
Fair enough.
That's all.
Yeah, very cool.
I gave myself a 6. I was a 7, but I just went down. Like, I think that I have somewhat clarity on my why and like where I'm aiming to go, but there's still a lot of clarity on like, what, like nonprofits and things like that I would want to invest my money into.
Yeah.
So it's more like the outreach where I would want to spend my money. Because I don't wanna, like, I'm not looking for a yacht.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know what I mean? I would rather give back, and I have like some ideas of where I would like to give back. But I feel like I need more clarity on like what organization, because I'd like to possibly help somebody start something
Mm-hmm,
someday, a nonprofit,
mm-hmm.
so.
Cool.
So yeah, my clarity's not there yet
Yeah.
at all. Maybe I should be a 4.
Hey,
You go with that.
it's subjective. No, that's good. And I think on the like the generosity note, I think being a future oriented person, it can be tempting to say, oh, we'll go on the vacation once we've accomplished X, or we'll give once we're there. And I think at least from a generosity standpoint, like,
You don't have to have monthly checks.
yeah, it's a ratio conversation, and doesn't mean you're writing $1,000 checks every month, because you may not be in a position to do that, but the $50 a month to support the person or the cause or whatever it is, that's been, my wife has helped to challenge me on that, because I have certain convictions that mean I'm going to give at a certain level, and it's easy for me to say, oh, that's it for now, and she's like, giving's a muscle, and we need to exercise it, which I need and I appreciate. Others want to chime in on how they thought about the vision question? No pressure.
I'll say something. I'm actually
ahead.
getting sick, so my guests for Thanksgiving brought over more than a side dish. I think they brought over a cold bug. So, but I guess my why for my financial self-assessment is just creating enough passive income that supports a modest lifestyle. And then just the freedom to be creative with my resources, time, generosity, at that point you have freedom to make all sorts of different decisions.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's great.
Okay,
When-
so
Go ahead.
what I'm aiming for is, my husband has me in a situation where he wants to retire yesterday, but I need him to work 2 more years for different reasons. So what I'm aiming for is to, replace his income with the passive income, which I kind of got that worked out. But I want to be able to, one, leave my children so that they can be comfortable when I'm gone. They will inherit everything and it'll be protected. And for my husband and me, I don't know if I told you, Mark, but I gave him his midlife crisis last year. I bought him a full big Harley Davidson. And we're part of a law enforcement motorcycle group, and they like touring across the United States. So that's what I'm aiming for, so that we can do that with them and be able to pay for hotel rooms and not have to worry about money.
That's great. Follow-up question there, Linnea. Many people share your vision or your desire to leave the next generation in a better position than you were in, perhaps. What's your level of confidence in their ability and their wisdom in stewarding that at this point?
Well, let's hope I'm alive for at least 10 more years. They've got some maturing to do.
That's fair. That's a great answer. And I think that's a question and my kids are little, and we're Lord willing decades away from this being a real conversation, but like, hey, what does it look like to be the sort of person that could handle a windfall? And what does it look like to raise the sort of people that could steward a windfall well? And those are 2 different conversations. Nobody wants to raise, spoiled trust fund babies. Nobody wants to be one. Nobody wants to raise one. But
Well, that question came into play on the trust. My 2 sons are total opposites of each other. I mean, one, we've set him up with rental properties and stuff, the other one is lucky to pay his rent. So
Yeah.
they're total opposites. But my attorney asked me, I have 2 grandchildren. And he said, okay, if your son would pass away, where do you want his portion of, because it'll be a monthly income for them. Where do
Right.
you want his money to go? Just to the mother, or do you want it to go to the your grandchildren? And I said, well, my grandchildren are under 18, so how does that work? And he goes, well, at what age do you think they could handle that kind of money? And I go, what's that mean? And he's like, well, do you want to give it to them when they turn 18? And I go, well, what do you suggest?
Yeah.
I'm
Right. Give me the
I'm
answer
full
here.
of questions. And he
Yeah.
says, I suggest they don't get anything until they turn 25.
Yeah.
And I go, why? Because the kids could use it for college. He goes, let them take out loans and pay them off when they're 25. He goes, I've got clients that make them wait till their 30th birthday. So in answer to your question, I mean, I'm asking a professional and he's
Yeah.
telling me, and you got that
Yeah.
for free. You didn't even have to pay him.
I tell you what, there we go. Thanks for paving the way for us. That's a good.
Car insurance trusts them at 25 a little more too.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
There's wisdom.
For the
Fine.
man, our prefrontal cortex isn't fully formed until we're 26. So, there's lots of debates there, but that's an important question. All right, let's move forward. All right, clarity on my financial goals, 1 year. So again, vision is how I would live were not an issue, and goals are specifically what I'm looking to accomplish to get there. I gave myself an 8.5. I love decimals. I live in spreadsheets. For round up, round down. For me, I'm aiming for 25% net worth growth annually, which requires aggressive saving, investing, as well as typically some help from the market. So not always in my control. I'm also looking to add $1,000 a month in passive income in the next year, which would happen through 2 properties being added to the portfolio, if properly purchased. So that's, maybe I should give myself a higher number, because that's what I know I want to do as it relates to financial goals.
Sounds pretty defined. It
Yeah.
sounds pretty good. Maybe round up from that point.
Round up, okay, to 8.75.
I give myself a 4, and I think I was being generous to me. I haven't, like I said, this is where I need to write and stuff. I've even jumped ahead of what I need to do to improve these, but yeah, so I don't have it well defined. I just know I need to have better than vision for it than what I have now. So I know I want to do better, so I gave myself some points, but maybe it's better if it was a 2 or a 3.
That's good.
I'd say I would give myself a 6 because I was gonna be a 7. Once again, I think it's the real crystal clarity.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like I know that. I think with the market, it kind of worries me because like the ALC thing, the guy said, if you're trying to increase your business by next year, it might not be a good idea. Do you know what I mean? So I guess that like, I'm kind of just aiming for what I did this year. If I can keep that going, I'll be happy. But the real clarity as far as like more income would be like buying a rental and deciding, am I doing a short term or am I doing a long term? So I need to actually put more focus into actually exploring those things. So that's why I gave myself a 6, but probably should be a 3 too.
No, that's good. And Melissa's referencing James Shaw, who taught at our ALC clinic. As the market moves in the way that it is, if we're sitting down a year from now and you said, hey, I maintained, I did the same number of units this year as I did last year, that would be a win, because most people will be down in number of units. And if you maintain, that means you took some market share. But to say, oh, I'm looking to double my business next year, unless you only did 4 deals last year, then that's probably not a data-based goal. So
Mhm.
all the more important to be dialed into exactly what you're doing from a strategy standpoint, not just in your business income standpoint, but what you're doing with what you are making.
And I honestly may make my goal, because I didn't hit my goal this year,
Mhm,
and I wasn't that far off, but I was far off enough, you
mhm.
know what I mean? So I probably will make my goal this year the same as last year,
Sure.
and maybe I'll make it.
Mhm.
Go to Youngstown, find a, you know, a good Italian connected guy, get a cash deal done before the year.
There you go. There you go.
Bad vision. Come on.
Others with regards to clarity on your financial goals for the next year.
Ooh,
I put an 8.
Mhm.
I feel I'm on track for my financial goals, although I have to redefine my financial goals now because I'm entering a whole new thought, but I'm pleased with where I am today.
Mhm.
1 year from now, I definitely hope to be better than that. I'm just gonna work towards that. That's my goal is to get back to where I was at the level I was a few years ago in real estate before COVID,
Mhm.
and I would be happy with that.
Mhm. Yeah, because you're now retired from the corporate career, there are still financial needs. It's not as though you're just living
Right.
high off the hog, but your needs and your goals are different than the rest of us.
Yeah, I'm not collecting social security or anything like that
Yeah.
either, so I mean, I still need income.
Yep. Right.
So it's not like I just dried up, but
Mhm.
because of my past investments and whatnot, I'm able to do what I'm doing, so.
Yep. Smart. Others?
I guess my financial goals for 1 year is to be debt free. I mean, I want all debt paid off. And I want to start investing because I want to diversify any passive income I have coming in case one would stop. I want to make sure that there's enough coming in. So I'm learning about investing, and that's kind of why I tuned into you guys to see, what you guys might know that I might be able to use.
Mhm.
Debt free from credit cards. I'll never be debt free from
Mortgages. Mhm.
No, I don't want to be. It's other people's money. That's OPM. I heard that somewhere one time. I loved it. Other people's money. It's their money that I'm making money on.
Mhm.
So I don't care if I'm debt free in real estate. I've got 2 rentals yet in my personal residence. I sold one of my other residences. So, but it was all other people's money. But
Mhm.
now it's my money.
Mhm.
So those, I never looked to be debt free. I never looked at my real estate. So I'm gonna make X amount of dollars per month. Every 3 or 4 years, I'm gonna reinvest with the bank and I'm gonna get some money from them. That's where I'm gonna make my money.
Mhm.
And it's free income.
Mhm.
It's not taxable.
Mhm.
It's a loan.
Right.
So
Mhm.
it's
I
one-
disagree on that.
That
I
credit
just-
card debt free is great, but
Go ahead, Tanya.
That concept I understand, but when I say debt free, I mean anybody who's going to collect interest on me, that debt needs paid. And that includes for me, just me, anything real estate related as well. I mean, I just am so against interest on anything, credit card, mortgage, car, anything. I mean, that's money that shouldn't be taken away from me.
I agree with you, Tony, except for one thing. If I'm paying 2% or 1% and I can make 8%, and so I'm netting 7 or 6%, then I feel like it can be okay. But I agree, I understand what you're thinking, because that's I think that's good thinking. But I've also learned from others that if I can make more money by taking debt and I'm paying less but making more on a return, netting a lot more, then I think it's worth it. But you've got to do your homework to do that well.
Well, and I think a lot of it depends on the chapter that you're in.
Your life,
If it's
yeah.
I'm looking to grow and I'm build and add cash flow, that might be in favor of leveraging your way to get there. If it's, hey, I want to manage and I want to control and I want to protect and I want to maximize, that's a different chapter.
It's like, it's a risk, right? It's
Yep.
like assessing what you're gonna do with the stock market. Are you gonna do mutual funds? You're gonna buy stocks? Are they gonna be more risk? Are they gonna be more, I think everyone has to know their own life and what they're comfortable with and things. And so, like you said, no judgment zone in the sense that everyone's in a different place and has different beliefs that are around that and different family circumstances, personal circumstances that should dictate our decision making.
Right. Lori, anything for you as it relates to goals?
Well, I am in the period of my life where I want to kind of just protect. So my mindset is to pay off debt. And investing is great, but there is no guarantee. If there was a guarantee I could make 8% on my money, by golly, I would not feel so badly about debt. I would for sure be paying that 4%. And unfortunately, right now, that is not 4% isn't even the interest rate right now. So
Right.
So
No guarantee.
yeah, there's no guarantees. But what I have been unclear about and going back and forth is that there are some investments that are guaranteed right now. Like some of the treasury notes and bonds are, for over 4%, 4.5%. Some people think those are going to go up. And if I'm focused on paying off, I have some debt that's at 4.5. I have some that's at 3%. I mean, I have a house that's at 2.6. Well, then at that point, I'm like, well, it really doesn't make sense. Maybe I just stick that money in a guaranteed, treasury bond for a couple of years and see, and I still have my cash, but I'm still earning money. But I guess I'm just unclear and a little leery of what the next 12 months hold. And I'm afraid to pay down debt because I want to have cash at my fingertips at the same time as well.
Yeah. It's a double-edged sword, isn't it? It's like, oh, there's so much
Yeah.
opportunity. Yeah, I struggle with
But
that as well.
locking it in for too long. So, but I've been taking my extra money and buying short-term notes. That way I'm earning a little bit and it's guaranteed as we go through this turbulent time.
When you say
But I
short-term notes, T-bills.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
You want to talk a little bit more about that for a second? I'm not expecting you to be the expert, but what are T-bills and why do you like them?
Well, I like them because there's different maturity dates. There's 4 weeks, there's 8 weeks, there's 17 weeks, there's 26 weeks. There is up to a year, but then once it goes over, a year or more, it turns into bonds. And that's really the difference, but it is guaranteed a percentage. Like, and there's also I bonds right now that I bought about 6 months ago that they were paying like 9%, and that was guaranteed, but it's only for a certain amount of time. And then it goes to a lesser percent. Right now, the I bonds are like 6.8%. And again, that is guaranteed. So
6.8% annual.
Yeah. But I think they only pay it for a year and then it changes.
Yeah.
And goes to something else. But anyway, it's an interesting climate with all the different, what we've known for the past 10 years is changing. I mean, I don't think that we've ever had, treasury bonds and notes this high since like the 70s.
Wow.
Or 80s, maybe.
Well, and I like that. I like those T-bills, not having invested in them myself yet, because having a defined period or defined, hey, this, I'm not looking to do anything with my money for at least 6 months, so I'm just gonna put it in a short-term vehicle and earn a defined amount. That is attractive, as opposed to, hey, I could drop it in the S&P 500 and 6 months from now, yeah, maybe 3 years from now, I'd much rather bet on the S&P. But for a short to medium period of time, that is attractive. I'm gonna dig into
Right.
that. I've heard the murmurings about the T-bills and bonds, but I haven't looked at it all that closely myself. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, it's been my new obsession.
Okay, so Lori's husband is a wealth advisor as well. Is Rick diving into this as
Except
well, or is this more-
He's not, no, he doesn't lead the pack, or not with me anyway. I'm doing kind of my, he does his thing and I do my thing.
Yeah, I respect that.
But yeah, I mean, even like, so for us as, realtors, we get this cash and then we have to set aside X amount for income taxes, quarterly taxes. And so I'm trying to get on this cycle of maturity that, I put this quarterly tax payment in here and it's going to mature in 12 weeks, just in time for me to pay my quarterly taxes. And so,
yeah, I like that. Is there a website or a particular resource, as you talk about obsessing about it, that you could share with us, so that anyone who's interested could begin?
treasurydirect.com.
Cool.
Thank you.
And of course, my husband could help you.
Right, exactly. Platinum Wealth Advisors, right?
That's right.
Cool. Let's jump from the third question to the fourth, just briefly on the living within my means, money left at the end of the month. You can make the most money in the world, but if your ratios don't work, then you have to fix the ratios. That's why you can be wealthy making 50 grand a year, or you can be broke making $250,000 a year. So we're not going to share at this point, just in the interest of time, because there's some other things I want to hit on. But if you gave yourself a low score there, like, I'd be glad to chat and say, okay, where's the opportunity there? Because for the third one, living within your means.
My teenagers. I don't know when the bills are coming. I can't keep track. I'm like, oh, you hit a deer. Oh, you got a flat tire. Oh, it is nonstop. So, yeah.
Lord have mercy. Lord have mercy.
Looking forward to that.
Yeah, exactly. This is a dad who, let's just say the Tooth Fairy had 2 assignments this weekend and fulfilled on one of them and forgot about the other one.
Oh, no.
So we're still the Tooth Fairy phase of parental investment. It's cheaper. Yeah. Our Tooth Fairy pays $1, but the one who forgot might be paying $2 on day 2. Our daughter comes down this morning. She's like, Tooth Fairy didn't come. And, nobody really actually believes in the Tooth Fairy. I'm like, well, when I was a boy and the Tooth Fairy forgot,
He's eating turkey.
that means the money earned interest and you got paid twice as much the next day. I'm looking at my wife with one of these, like, right? Is that what we're doing? We're not yet to the deer hitting phase of parenting. So clarity for how you would spend your time if money were no object. This is the question for me, because as I think about freedom, and like, for me, I reached a point this year where if all heck were to break loose and I were to lose my job and all that, my family could get by on our passive income. We wouldn't be living as well as I'd like for us to, but we'd be okay. We could make it work. So I've begun to think more about, like, if I were to reach that point, how would I spend my time? How different is it from how I already spend my time? And so probably for the last month, I've been in a place of reflecting on what deserves more of my time than I'm giving it, and can I be doing more of that now than I realize? And the answer is yes. There's always time to live within our priorities. Now the ratios may be different. I gave myself a 5 there because I think that's the area of greatest opportunity for me to really kind of spell out what that looks like for me. Anyone else want to chime in on that question for themselves?
Gave myself an 8,
Hmm.
my highest score.
Hmm.
I could probably gone higher. I ask myself the purpose of why I do what I do, why I attain. Do I attain to what the world says and try to amass wealth for the sake of having the most goodies at the end and things like that? But the reality is, what is it that would make me most happy? And that would be spending time with my wife, traveling, doing things together. And also, I'm very much about, I know not everybody has these beliefs, but I believe in sharing the hope of Jesus Christ. And so having that opportunity to do that in a way that there's freedom that comes through sometimes being generous and showing love and mercy to people who don't necessarily know it, might give me opportunity to communicate some of those things that I believe are true about that. And I've always wanted to buy a whole neighborhood block in the city and rebuild all those homes and give them to people for really cheap, as long as that whole neighborhood is done. And so I just have visions like that. So that's the generosity that I want to do. And I want to spend time with my wife because we're getting older. And my body might not be able to do the things I wanted to do all my life. So. But so I feel very confident on that one.
Yep.
Very good.
That's great. Other thoughts or comments there?
I think I pretty much clarified mine. I did give myself a 9, that's pretty high, but I think I clarified if I wasn't doing what I love to do is dog rescue. We just love our dogs and with the satisfaction that comes from rehoming them with good people and saving them and just all that's involved in that. It's huge.
It's awesome.
Others?
I mean, I'm gonna give myself a 9. Because honestly, I don't have kids. So nobody hits deers. And I pray I don't hit one. But I think that I'm kind of at the point where I really don't think about money. I kind of do what I want for the most part. So I've actually reached that goal. But I could also give back though. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I already give, but still I would like to give more.
Right.
So
Yeah, and I think that's part of the question of, okay, so I'm a modest-minded middle American, as I've said, I don't need a whole lot. My needs are cared for, which is like, it's fine to live in that place. And it's like, well, what about others? And then what about, and I was inspired for those of you who were at Family Reunion. Did you go this past year? Was it Family Reunion? Were you there on the last day? The culture? Yeah. So
yeah, it's like I watched even at the Mega Camp, they did a culture day. I watched it and it makes me want to cry. Like I want to like give back like those people.
Yeah.
Like that is
so Sajid, for those who weren't there, so Sajid Patel, who's a VP with Keller Williams, who's actually based out of Cleveland initially. He is like giving profoundly to orphanages in third world countries and building them, and he's passionate for at-risk youth in third world countries where they don't have clean water, all these kinds of, and so there's obviously immense need throughout the world. And he went on a trip and got inspired, and now he's doing this. And so he talked about what he was involved with. Then Mo Anderson asked him about his goal, and it was, I want to help 10,000 kids, I think was the number, to have safety and to have these things and to have a real education. She said, well, what'll it take in order to, that's a big goal. How do you get that? And he said 1,000 doors, which I loved that answer, because I think normally we'd see someone who says, oh, I'm looking to accumulate 1,000 doors of rental property, and be like, bro, why do you need all that? Can't you get by on less than that? No need to be greedy, without realizing, oh no, his why is a whole lot bigger than just, providing for his family. He's looking to provide for a whole village of people, villages of people, and to build wealth for others. That's a different level. It's almost like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, where it's like, hey, I gotta eat food first before I can worry about how I look, before I can worry, And once you reach kind of this level of wealth building, say like, well, I'm free with my time, my needs are met, I don't worry about this stuff, what next? And I don't want it to just be about my leisure for the rest of my life. That's not exciting. That's not a big enough why. Personally. So whether it's rescuing dogs or giving to a mission or redeveloping a block on a city, like those are it's exciting to begin to dream about those sorts of things. And I'm just at the front end of that. Talenia or Lori, do either of you want to jump in on that conversation?
I had to step away for a moment to take a phone call, so I'm not sure
Okay.
where we are.
We're asking or interacting with the clarity for how you would spend your time if money were no object question.
Oh, yeah, I guess I think a little smaller in that, family and friends and being there just for the people in my, inner circle, and just outside of my inner circle is, seems like my family gets short-sighted much of the time. So that's where my thought process is.
Yep. And I know you're probably not giving yourself enough credit. I know that you are very committed to your family, and it's one of those things that I love them so much. I wish I could spend twice as much time with them as I do. And so I respect that you're already living into your values, even though I'm sure soon it will be more.
Yes. Yeah. Thanks, Mark.
Yeah. Talenia, anything for you?
I guess I just like spending time with my family as well and
Mhm.
traveling. I mean, if money was no object, I mean, a house isn't even important to me. I just want to travel. I want to, I love cruising because when you go on a cruise and you go to sleep, you wake up somewhere new. And I love that. I love the newness. And it's always been one of my things to take my family on a cruise. My kids and their wives and grandkids and everything, just so they could have that experience as well. Just learn and explore and live life and see the things that we don't normally ever get to see.
No, that's great. So I just want to leave just with a couple questions for reflection, and then anyone who wants to stay in, we can solve Melissa's questions as it relates to the investment property. But yeah, that's right. So taking that last question further on these last couple, and these are questions for you to kind of ruminate on in a consistent way. If your needs were met through passive sources, what would you spend your time on? What would your typical day look like? Let's get specific. What do you, and then the question flowing from that, what do you need to time block for now? Because we don't need to live totally in a life deferred sort of way. And so my encouragement is actually build out that day. Build out the regular day. It's one thing to have the mountaintop. Hey, we're going on a trip, we're doing these cool things, but what does a regular day look like? And then the step from that is, what does it look like to put one of those things on your calendar? For me, like, I've got the metabolism of a teenager still, but exercise is totally sidelined in this season. I'm not prioritizing for it. And for me to say, oh, when I'm financially free, then I'll exercise. Like, that's not an option. Like, Mark, like, get it back on your calendar. So like our values need not be future oriented only. And so I want to task each of you between now and our next gathering, spend some time building out a regular day on the other side of money being no object. Then the question of which of the previous 4 questions that we've discussed is the most important for you to improve on? Do you need more clarity? Do you need to live within your means more? Is it your vision that needs more clarity, your goals, or how you would spend your time? And then the final step, and I will ask, for anyone who wants to chime in with feedback here, what's the one thing you can do to improve, presumably in that area between now and our next meeting, which is December 19th or something like that. Any thoughts there? I know, Scott, you said you already gave that a second's worth of thought.
I put I had to have my business plan submitted. It has to
Mhm.
be the most formalized that it's ever been. And I don't know if I can get it done by the 19th, but that's my number one goal business wise.
That's your one thing, but
It's
before
my
the end of the
one
year.
thing that has to be done, and it has to be done well. Thinking of even leaving town to work on it.
Mm.
So.
Mhm.
It's the busiest time of year, December, everybody wants something. Gotta be here and there.
Yep.
So I'm trying to figure it out. Yep. And my one assessment that I need to improve most on is clarity of financial goals.
Mhm. I think for me, since it's easy for me to defer my priorities. In my family, we live comfortably, but my wife, she doesn't suffer, but like it's easy for me to say we'll do the vacation when. And we did a great vacation this year, which had been a like, all right, Mark, like, come on. We've been married for 10 years and haven't really gone on a trip, just the two of us before. So like, let's make this a priority. So I think for me, to put things on the calendar for next year, that doesn't need to be big things, but hey, if I'm looking to do a date a month with my wife, let's put them on the calendar and then we can adjust the dates as necessary, but being more proactive to living towards my values now, because that stuff doesn't need to wait. Anyone else want to chime in on that?
Kind of Scott, I just want to get my business direction, slide plan built and a goal in mind for what I'm gonna do, because right now I'm kind of in limbo. Just kind of trying to soak it all in and figure out the direction I'm going.
Yeah, you and me, let's get an hour on the calendar to sit down and dive into that now that you're in a different chapter and looking to focus in a new way. I'd love to do that.
Okay.
Anyone else?
I hate to say it, but I need help in all of those areas. Because this is all very new to me. I'm not used to where I mean, I kind of feel like I don't know how to act. I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
I'm looking for clarity on every direction because I'm somewhere new. And so that's why I went to the advisor, because I didn't want to screw everything up.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think the temptation is to feel overwhelmed and what don't I know that I should have known, or should I be ashamed of what I don't already know, and to spiral in unhelpful directions. But in my mind, and I know I don't have the answers for you, Talinia, but it's what's most important to me. How do I make sure that I keep that in view as I plan for how to keep and to grow, the financial side of things? And those questions will have answers as long as you maintain clarity on what's most important to you and your family in this time, which that part feels like you do have some clarity on, as you've shared, family and some travel and the ability for your husband to be able to walk away from his work in a defined amount of time. And so keeping those things in view and partnering with people who aren't selling you something, but who are helping you to understand. You don't want to be sold, you want to be educated and consulted with as you make the decisions that you're making. But it sounds like you've got some good people. One day at a time,
I
right?
hope. Yeah, I hope. It's just the level has changed so much.
Yeah.
I remember, being worried if I was gonna be able to get the kids this Christmas gifts out of layaway before Christmas.
Yeah.
Now I'm in a whole different ball field, and
Christmas is paid for, right?
trust me.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's
And it
exciting, but
feels
it's also
good.
a new challenge.
And it felt good because I got to give my boys something very large for Christmas that it made my oldest boy cry. I mean, he's like, Mom, nobody's ever giving me anything like this. And
That's
that
awesome.
made me feel awesome.
That's
So,
awesome. Good for
so
you.
I don't have to do layaway anymore, Mark.
There you go. There you go. Layaway free life. I'm really excited for you. Anyone else have anything they want to add to that? That last question there.
I think I need to research more. Just like the treasurydirect.com, the T notes, the bond, the I bond, like, I don't know anything about that kind of stuff, and I need to start.
Yeah.
I need to time block, actually time every week that I actually am like researching stuff. 'Cause I literally like, especially knowing that they have maturity dates, like in paying quarterly taxes, I could put all kinds of money in there. Do you know what I mean? And just have it mature. There's so much I don't know. Lori, we need to get together.
Okay. That sounds good. Maybe we can meet halfway for coffee.
Lunch in Worcester.
Yes, I go to Worcester all the time.
Do ya?
Yeah, I go to Worcester. I have a listing
yeah.
in Worcester right now, in fact.
Oh,
Maybe I go pick up my sign or something. Maybe I'll let you know. We can meet out there.
that would be fun. I would like that.
Yes.
Lori's smart. Wicked smart, as they might say.
I don't know about that. I don't know about
You,
that.
as much as anybody I know, Lori, you don't give yourself enough credit for your competence. So
No.
I'll just say that. Yeah.
He's a-
Well, my big goal is to really put some systems in place with an admin assistant so that I can have more freedom with my time, so that I can be more productive, and so I can go meet my girlfriend in Worcester for coffee to talk about T-bills.
Yeah, there we
Well, and She
go.
can tell you about assistants, because she's got a great assistant.
That's right. That's right. T-bills and VAs.
Yeah.
That's that. Get to.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I love that note. Awesome. Well, I'll conclude this, and then anyone who wants to dive in and evaluate that property with us for Melissa, we can. But I'm not going to Zoom that unless Talenia or Lori, you're going to fight me on that. All right, all have a fantastic Monday.